This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, Tamara.
Good morning.
Welcome. Just giving some folks time to join with this link. For some reason, the other link was not working properly. We're all set.
Thank you so much for hosting this. This was right on time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Not a problem at all. There have been many people who see my profile on LinkedIn are asking me questions about this, and I was like, you know what? Let me just host a session on this and talk about it.
Yeah, the values of your value of your sessions you've been doing this fall have just been tremendous. So thank you. No, I'm not in the area, but I really, really appreciate it. As a business owner, it has been huge. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really wanted to deliver something different, like really valuable information that got into the weeds more in 2023. And I'm going to do some more in 2024, like real life managing business. Here's the real deal type of session. So thank you. I'm glad you noticed. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Danielle. Welcome to the webinar. I'm just going to give 30 more seconds for folks to hopefully see their invitation to this new link. Simply because the other link, technology was not letting us be great today. So hopefully everyone will see their emails. If not, is recorded, and we'll get started here momentarily. Alrighty, so in order for us to have plenty of time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone who has been able to join this morning. We have many others, and so they'll just chime in as they find the link. But I wanted to have a really in-depth conversation about fractional executives and what's that process like? What do they do? What's their role? How much can you expect to pay? And so just giving you practical, real world information centered on how do you get help? If you are an entrepreneur with a growing business and you've been doing everything yourself for 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 years, it's time for you to delegate. And I know that can be extremely difficult when you look at three things: your budget, time to train someone, or you look at whether or not your operation is ready. And those are things that you can overcome in order for you to lighten your load so that you can focus. And I'm going to talk about how that works when it comes to fractional executives. Alrighty, so let me pull this up again. Welcome to everyone who is here. I hope this is valuable, and I'll leave time at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you may have related to this topic. All right. So we're going to be talking about fractional executive and what they offer, and as part-time or consultant leaders in your business. And I am going to go to my presentation. Alrighty, so what is a fractional executive? This is a consultant that has expertise in a particular field of operation. And so these individuals may have been former executives with major corporations or other high growth businesses, and they have actual experience in that particular division, department, or line of business. And so they bring to the table already the experience and the knowledge, and most times methods for allowing small to mid-sized businesses or high growth businesses the ability to grow leveraging their experience. And so a fractional executive is someone who can be a part of your team for a short period of time to kind of straighten out your mess, or they could be engaged for a long period of time in order to help you achieve certain milestones and goals in your business over a longer period of time. And they actually are designed to help free up your time in order for you to focus on the things that you, as the founder and CEO, do well or that you want to do. And the reason why I say want to do is because often what I've experienced in 21 years in business is that there are founders who are really, really, really great at creating. They're great at ideas, but they're not good at execution. And they're not good at managing the business, whether it's financials, systems, processes. They just struggle in that area. And once you have that kind of internal conversation with yourself to assess what am I really good at doing in this business, and then determine what you want to delegate to others, it's kind of freeing in a way, whereas it will allow you to ensure that you get to do the things that made you happy when you started the business, but the other things that are critically important to success and growth are managed properly, and they don't sit and rot and wait for you to pay attention to them while things kind of fall apart, which prevents you from growing or building an infrastructure that supports growth. And so, hiring fractional executives, depending on the role, can be quite useful. And I'll talk a little bit more about the different types of roles here. So, fractional leaders can be hired in different capacities. You have your COO level, which is your Chief Operating Officer. You have your Chief Financial Officer, CFO, CMO, which is your Chief Marketing Officer, and I have that twice. And then you have your CTO, that should be CTO, Chief Technology Officer. And then we have something that's called a chief diversity officer. And that's something, it's not necessarily new, but more high growth businesses that have larger teams are starting to look at diversity and inclusion as part of their infrastructure as well, especially as you have more people from diverse backgrounds. So that's a role that many high growth businesses are looking into as well. And then lastly, HR, the human resource management component of the business. That's after you get to a certain financial milestone and size. Oftentimes, that HR role is kind of shared, to be honest, between the CEO, executive assistant, or COO, or office manager for a long period of time until you reach a point where you just no longer can afford to kind of haphazardly run the HR management component of your business. And so many are looking at hiring fractional human resource managers in their companies. So that's a layout of the different types of fractional leaders, with the exception of that CMO that represents CTO, and the opportunities that exist for small to mid-sized businesses to be able to fill in gaps in their operation so that you aren't the person that's doing all of this. When you really look at this layout of the roles that we play as owners of our own businesses, if you don't have team members that are filling these roles currently today, you're doing all of that. And that can be a heavy weight on you mentally, physically, but it also can be a heavy weight on the business because when you're trying to do too many things, something is going to fall between the cracks. And that, as an executive, is what you're trying to prevent in order for you to position yourself for growth. Fundamentally, we have to have help. And budget aside, you can't grow an enterprise without having people. That's the basic truth to why fractional leaders exist. But we do have to have a conversation about realities. Number one, what role should they play and can they play? And then we'll talk a little bit more about budgets, but then also analyzing, well, how do you decide what you need? So, the role of fractional leaders is to help you manage in actuality. Managing services, they provide management services to organizations on a for hire, part time basis, or fractional basis. So, what that means is that they may not have to have a physical office in your space. They can work remotely, depending on what type of business you have, so that you save money when it comes to physical space or office space. They can work part time, whether that is 10 hours a week, 20, 30 hours a week. But if you get, of course, into 40 hours a week, then that becomes a full time fractional executive in your organization. It just depends on how large you are and the role that you want them to play. For example, I have a role with a growing e-commerce company as their COO, and she gets to focus on the creative side of the business and the sales, which is her love. I get to handle the financials and the operation, the procedures and the systems and partnership development, which she hates. And that can be done remotely because she's not here. She's not in the same space I am in, but it all can be done just remotely, which is a time saver as well as financial savings for the company, but the work still gets done. Other roles, you want to have a fractional executive that will have years of experience in either your industry, direct experience, or experience in management, results driven experience in managing. Managing three key areas: one, systems; two, processes; three, the operation. And if you are a business owner that knows you have not really put together a working framework for how your business operates, this is an area of need for you, because it's difficult for a business to have a strong foundation to support growth, growth meaning increase in revenue, bringing on new customers, if you're teetering on breaking because you don't have your proper systems, your processes, and your procedures in order to run the business. And so your fractional leaders, your managers, are supposed to be able to come into your organization, assess where you are, whether it's operational, whether it's financial or marketing or the technology that you're using. They're supposed to be able to come into your organization, assess where you are, and then create a strategy to repair and fix these areas so that you can build a stronger foundation to support growth. Growth meaning increased revenue, because ultimately that's what keeps us alive. But do it more efficiently and effectively so that you aren't feeling like you are all over the place and that you're pulled in 17 different directions without being able to truly focus on the business, which sometimes happens, especially if you've been in business for 5, 7, 8 years. You're really building traction, you have a great reputation, you're making it happen, even though it's just you, in some cases, managing it all. But at the end of the day, you're tired and there's only so much you can do. This is where fractional executives can come in to help. And they can help in many different areas, whether it is auditing your operational performance. What that really means is that they look at how are you running your business today, and they apply or collect the numbers to show you this is what you are doing today based on the numbers. And then they can provide to you through research and data, this is where you could be with fixes or repairs or enhancements. The other is developing your systems to track your projects or your production, manufacturing, or your service delivery. Actually digging deep into what systems are you using to manage the company. And if you aren't using any systems, and if everything is manual, it's all paper or it's Excel spreadsheets and so forth, that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. But if you're trying to get to 1 million, 2 million, 5, $10 million company, which for some is feasible, you're going to have sophisticated or better systems to get there. And that's what a fractional executive should be able to come in and identify the holes that you have in your company to help you get there. Data and KPIs, key performance indicators. This is an area that small to mid-sized businesses know that they need to understand and manage, but they often ignore because they're not quite sure what they're supposed to measure. What are you supposed to collect? What are you supposed to track? And how are you supposed to measure success? This is where a fractional executive, should have experience in being able to identify here are your key performance indicators, create the dashboard for you, keep that dashboard up to date, meaning collecting that data and putting it into the system for you, and then meeting with you to present this information so that you can make business decisions on what to do next in your business based on data versus intuition. And so that's their job, is to help pull all of that information, and it's tedious. And again, if you've been running your company alone by yourself for 5, 6, 8 years, and you've never had an opportunity to sit down and look at what am I doing? Where's the data? How have I improved or not? Then you need this because it's how you make decisions. The last couple of areas that they can help is identifying gaps and opportunities. What this really means is that sometimes, as I mentioned, when you are operating and you're the person who runs everything and you're managing everything and you're everything to the business, it is very difficult for you to be able to sit up, take a breather, and look for opportunities that exist, but you can't see it because you're too far in the weeds working in the business versus on. And so you may miss opportunities. I mean, really think about if there were opportunities in 2022, 2023 that you missed because you weren't ready. And that happens to all of us if we are not prepared by sitting down and looking at where we are today, but then also assessing where we want to go in the future. And if you have a team member whose their job is to look at opportunities to present information to you as the manager, as the owner, as the CEO, then you all can be better prepared to take advantage or capitalize on opportunities that you all see before your competition. And that's their job, is to help you do that. Lastly, strategic guidance. This is a reality for many, and it basically centers around the CEO feeling very isolated when they're working alone. They don't feel like they have the ability to talk to perhaps team members that they're working with. They don't have a community of other executives that they can talk to, feel safe in talking to about internal struggles, whether it's taxes or it is failures with their vendors or customers who are unhappy, you don't have the ability to talk it through or over with someone who understands you and understands your business. And so, strategic guidance and that team of smart people that come together to work for the common mission or goal of the company is missing. So, you often are like talking to yourself and repeating things that don't work because you don't know. And so an executive, fractional executive can come in because they've been there, done that before with other companies, can give you a fresh perspective and give you guidance on this is what they've seen in the past, this potentially could work, and here's why. And then you take that information and are able to make different decisions. And then lastly, every role that, well, most roles, I should say, that you hire for should have some direct impact, positive impact on your ability to increase your revenue, sustain your revenue, and also look at opportunities to make additional revenue through streams that you may not have known or seen before. And so that are just a few bullet points of the role that a fractional executive can play, even in your small to mid sized business, in order to help free you up to be able to do what you do well. So, those are some bulleted roles I wanted to share with you. Now, if I may, I want to share with you, well, what's the internal process that you today, if you're really thinking about hiring a fractional executive team or person, what should you do to get prepared? And so this internal process is a process that you could sit down over the holiday and answer some questions for yourself and think through to determine, one, are you ready to bring in a fractional executive or team? Two, when will you be ready and what would they do? And so the first thing you want to do is evaluate your internal business needs and the gaps. And this requires CEOs to be very honest about what is working and what's not working inside of the company. Whether you have a breakdown in sales leads, you have a breakdown in marketing, or you don't market at all or promote your company at all. You have heavy reliance on word of mouth, but you've not done any outside marketing to bring new leads. Evaluating your production and manufacturing or the way that you deliver service. There could be ways that you can improve efficiency in order to save money but increase revenue that you don't know yet. And that may be a gap in your business. Maybe you are behind in your bookkeeping, in your accounting, and you haven't done your accounting for a whole year. Tax time is rolling around, and that stress is about to um, happen again in your business as you get prepared for tax reporting. These are areas that you just want to sit down and have a real honest conversation with yourself of what's broken and what do I need to fix. And then determine from there what type of resource do I need to hire to help me fix this and to run it better 2024, 2025, and so on. Okay, so that's an evaluation of your internal capacity first. You need that first before thinking about what type of role you need. The next thing you want to do is analyze your financials and identify, do you have the capacity today using current operating income to hire a fractional executive? If you do, great, allocate that in your forecast or your pro forma for 2024 so that you know how much you can afford to pay for whichever type of role you need to bring in. If you find that you do not have the financial capacity today, it may mean that you need to access outside capital to cover the cost for engaging with a consultant for a short period of time. And having your budget to present that information to the financial institutions to build a business case as to why you need this role can be quite helpful. So assessing where you are and determining, can you afford today, or how much you need to access in order to bring in a consultant to help you. The third process that you want to go through is determining what are your key performance indicators based on the role you've identified that you would need to have them set up or help you set up to determine whether or not they are doing a good job. What that means is there's nothing worse than bringing in a resource, a human resource that doesn't know what they're working towards. They don't know what their goals are. They don't know what their milestones are. They don't know how you will measure success. And it's kind of guesswork for everyone. That will turn out disastrous. So if you can determine what's the data that you need to see in order to determine whether or not you're making progress in the business, you want to look at that prior to bringing on that resource so that you can have a really productive conversation as to what you're working towards when you bring them in. And then the last piece is looking for the right fractional executive and there are agencies that exist, that in consulting agencies as well, that's what they do. They provide fractional human resources consultants to work on projects. And so you want to make sure that you find, research, interview the right ones, depending upon the role that you're hiring for, and then make a decision and onboard that new resource, but be prepared for onboarding. Identify the role, have a job description, have the measures that you're going to track, meaning the data that you're going to track to measure success, and then lastly, how long do you need them? And what your end results? What is it that you want them to achieve for you? And be very clear about that. So that's the internal process that you want to begin working on to first decide what's wrong with the business, or maybe not what's wrong. What are some areas of opportunity in the business that you can repair and fix? How much can I afford to pay based on operational income, or if I need to assess outside capital to pay for this? Determine how you're going to measure success through data, and then begin your search for the right consultants to help you. Okay. Alrighty, so here's the question that I'm often asked when it comes to fractional executives. How much is it going to cost me? And don't let the numbers scare you, okay? If you are a business that has been in business, you're in six figures now, but you're working towards getting to 7 to 8 figures, these numbers shouldn't scare you. The reason being is because their jobs, when you hire, is to help you achieve those revenue goals. And if you hire the right consultants, they will help you get there. And so you will be able to afford these numbers. So don't let the numbers scare you. But what you're looking at is potentially, depending on their experience, meaning years of experience, their quality, results, and so forth, you are looking at paying $5,000 to $15,000 per month for, depending on the number of hours that you allocate for them. For a COO, your CFO could be 5 to 12. That is sometimes a CPA that will serve as the chief financial officer within your company, or it could be an accounting executive that's not a CPA, that's not certified licensed CPA, that could serve as a CFO in the company. Okay. CMO could range anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000 per month, again, depending upon their role, what they're doing for you, how much time is allocated to the job each week and each month. And then the CTO sometimes can be a little bit more expensive because it just depends on systems that you're using, what you want them to do for you. This is more so for tech businesses, tech firms that actually hire CTOs to run their tech firms. So don't be this number either. More than likely, your small to mid-sized business may not need a CTO. What you may need is someone to help you to identify, configure, and set up your tech systems, but you wouldn't need a long-term CTO or a true CTO in your business to date. So usually there you're going to pay, or you can expect to pay 8 to 16,000 a month. But again, that's more so for your multi-million-dollar tech firms that hire that type of role. Okay. All right, so these are potentially the costs that you can expect. They're usually going to have an hourly consultant rate, or they may have a flat rate for based on number of hours dedicated to your company. They can work on site, or they can work remotely or hybrid. It just depends on the relationship and what you need for your business and where they're located. Okay. All righty. Uh-oh. Okay. I don't know. Google just had a glitch of some sort there. Let me go back. And so that was the last slide. So now I will answer questions that you all may have about selection of an executive, fractional executive for your company. And any questions, feel free to just take yourself off mute and ask questions if you need.
Hey, Cynthia, thanks for doing this presentation. Really appreciate it. It's been helpful. I have a question about your approach to, on the operations side, your approach or certain frameworks that you like to use when you come in and consult on a fractional basis. Do you sort of subscribe to one framework over another for operating systems of a business or cadence, running a cadence of a business, or do you tend to just evaluate first and then decide which pieces from your toolbox you like to pull?
Mm, yes. So my practice over the 21 years has been to evaluate the company for where it is today, evaluate what's working for the company as far as their internal processes and systems, and then determine where the fixes or repairs or enhancements need to be in order for that company to achieve the goals and milestones. So I first have to understand where you're trying to go. What have you been able to accomplish historically to date? What's working for you right now? What we feel may need to be integrated or created or set up in order for you to actually position yourself to reach the identified for the. And then we go and look at what tools, resources, apps, and so forth, or processes would work best for you in your industry, and then work on a plan for how to make that happen within the period of time that you've allocated to get it done. That's my approach.
That makes a lot of sense. If I can ask one follow-up, what do you think is sort of the minimum amount of time to, let's say, a $10 million business, 50 employees, whatever it might be? What's the minimum amount of time that you would want to spend with that business to understand and suss out problems and start coming up with solutions?
So on my recent engagement, I took 2 months to complete the assessment, and that was working all day on the assessment because there's a time period of collecting data, and that may take some time with busy CEOs, especially if you don't have it readily available. So I need to collect data. I need to have my one-on-one conversations with the CEO or with the team members that are in place. So, because you're going to get different perspectives from what the CEO thinks is happening in the business in comparison to what the executive management team, if you have one, or the executive assistant running everything. I need to talk to everyone to full picture of how things are working today. So that may take 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the schedule. And then from there, I'm going to write out my plan. I'm going to sit in my quiet time to think through all of the elements and of what's working, what's not, write it out. And then I'm going to give my opinions and strategies on what's needed. And then I come back to the CEO and I say, here's what I heard, here's what I learned, here's what I noticed, here's what's going on in the industry. Let's talk about these suggestions that I have and the strategies. And then we start building out a timeline of what we're about to accomplish and why. And that's my approach, and it's worked really well. Whereas I've seen tremendous growth in the very last engagement, revenue growth, efficiencies in their process by making the changes incrementally that we identified initially. And that took about 6 months for it all to come together.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hopefully that was helpful.
Cynthia, I have a question for you. Great talk, and I'm recently just ended an engagement with a fractional executive, and I really like your advice about setting KPIs and setting expectations. I think it would have worked a lot better if I had understood that a little bit better. Any suggestions, or could you revisit key performance indicators or key things you need to look for, especially if you're a smaller business just getting started with fractional executives, just to kind of keep in mind as we move forward?
Absolutely, Dr. Huff. Thank you. So, when you're evaluating internally, if you don't already have your dashboard of your key performance indicators, you want to start looking at that now. Examples of data that you want to track is revenue over a period of time. So, year to year revenue, how much are you making? What are you projecting to make in 2024, 2025? All right, technical difficulties. I'm not sure if you all heard my response just now. Let me know. Okay, I don't know what's going on with the internet, but let me know if, okay, you want me to repeat? Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so what I was saying about KPIs is that there are certain financial or accounting ratios that are standard across all businesses that you want to understand and that you want to track depending on your industry and your business. So there are financial data that you want to track, revenue being one. There are some financial ratios that you want to track, lifetime numbers and so forth that you want to track. But then there are also operational data that you want to track depending on your industry you do. And this is internal to your operation. And so it could be, well, how long does it take for you to go from contract to delivery of service? identifying numbers related to service delivery. It could be quality numbers based on customer experience with your company. It could be manufacturing if you have a manufacturing company. It all truly depends your industry and what's important for you to track as it relates to your action plan. This is another key component as well because some CEOs do not do a really great job of developing an action plan every year. And so your action plan contains, it's almost like your project management tool. It contains the month by month steps and activities that you and your team is going to complete. It has a deadline, it has a timeline that has deadlines for tasks. It has who's responsible for those, and then it has the system that is used for those activities. And your data can be pulled from that action plan. And then your KPI or your dashboard, KPI dashboard, will contain fields for that data so that you can collect it every single month and determine, are we on track or are we off? And if you do that on a consistent basis, you as the CEO can make decisions about how you pivot within 30 days versus 6 months in and things aren't working. So that is the process that we would go through, and that's what needs to be set up, or a person brought in to help you set it up, and then that person's responsible for collecting that data, putting it in the dashboard. You have it as the CEO, and then you guys have a monthly meeting to discuss where are we now. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful.
Okay, good. Sorry about the technical stuff. The internet is doing something. Any other questions about fractional executives? Again, like I mentioned, don't be afraid of the numbers. You may be able to find a fractional executive for less than the cost that I shared, but executives are not assistants. They are not secretaries. They are not administrative assistants. They're not office managers. These are people who have background and experience in building businesses. And if you're planning to grow your business, grow through revenue, grow through expansion, grow through selling, or excuse me, scaling, then you need executive experience, not a secretary or not an administrative assistant. There's a difference. And so that's why the cost may be a little bit higher, but the return, if you have the right one, should help you reach the financial goals that you've set for yourself if the market is right and if your business is prepared and other factors. Okay, good. Any other questions about fractional executive services and how it could help your business? Again, most often people make this decision because they've been doing it themselves for a long time. And at some point, you're going to hit a ceiling or a wall and you're going to have to get help. And usually, those high growth businesses who are trying to get from 7 to 6 to 8 figures in revenue know that it's time to hire. All right, very good. Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining. We have one last for this year webinar happening on Friday. There's a business growth planner that we make available on our website to download, and we're going to do an actual walkthrough of that planner where I'm going to show executives actually how to complete the planner and use it as a tool to help manage their action plan and their growth strategy. So that happens this Friday at 10 o'clock. If you haven't registered for that or downloaded, please feel free and join us and download the planner. But these tools and these webinars that I'm providing, I'm really trying to help CEOs and executives really dig deep into managing their businesses to build stronger businesses to position for growth. And that's more than just talk. That is taking action. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully I'll see you Friday. Thank you all so much. And please complete the feedback form, and I will have more for you in 2024. And I look forward to serving you. Just reach out if you have any questions or have a need. Have a good day.